I love the conversation between interior designer and workroom because there's so much there that's good in the relationship that we have with the designers and the workrooms and the vendors that we work with. And there's so much there that could be improved, right? Like it's just little stick points and things. But when we come together in conversation, this is how we get better at what we do in the relationships. It's so funny because these girls here, Forbes and Masters, they were just giving a presentation and they talked about how communication is the foundation of the success of their partnership. And we are partners with the vendors and the designers that we work with, and the communication is the key, right? So, my name is Luann Igara. I am the host of the podcast, A Well-Designed Business, where we talk about the business of interior design. So if you are an interior designer and you have not heard of the podcast, and you want to be more profitable, then I suggest you tune in. I have a great panel with me today. I'm going to let each of these lovely people tell you who they are. I would love for you to say who you are, what your business is, how many years you're in business. Okay, so Tracy, you want to start?
Yes. Tracy Bresnahan. I'm an owner of Custom Creations. We are a drapery workroom, wholesale to the trade. Dedicated to our designers, and I've been in business a little over 17 years. Just moved my business out of my house and into a bigger space, which was amazing, and looking forward to talking today.
Great. Christy?
I'm Christy Davis, and I'm an interior designer in Columbia, South Carolina, and I've had my own business for 7 years, but I've been in the industry since I graduated college for interior design.
Great. And Grant?
Hi, I'm Grant Trick. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a manufacturer of custom furniture, you would say. We used to call it a workroom, but it's gotten bigger than that. So we make custom upholstered furniture, and then we have a line of furniture with my name on it also now that's in the trade showroom world. So it's me.
Very exciting, very exciting. All right, so before we get into the relationship between vendor and designer, I would love it if each one of you would just tell us something that you love about what you do. Something, it could be something in your day-to-day that you love, something in the big picture about the business that you own, or something you love about your niche or your area in the industry. Trace, you want to start us off?
Sure. I love what I do. I came from manufacturing, the manufacturing industry that died out as soon as I entered it, which was not great right out of college, apparel manufacturing, but I loved the industry. And so I kind of found my niche there and fell into this, and I'm a very high energy person, and I like to be very productive. So I love that we make something, and when we're done, we have something to show for it. So, and that we're making people's homes and their spaces where they love to be. They love to be there, and they're happy there. And I love working with people. I love working with my designers. We have very strong relationships, and I love that part of the business. So we make something, and we work with people.
Love it. I love it. Christy, how about you?
So I'm a people person, and I love getting to know my clients. It's very personal because we do homes and private spaces, and being able to design a space that is specifically tailored to their style, their needs, their wants, and desires. And so it's just fun to see not knowing someone grow into a friendship that can be life-lasting, and they can be clients for literally 20 plus years as long as they need you, or it could just be they just need one thing. But I love that I get to really create relationships.
Love it. The journey. You like the journey with your clients. Terrific. How about you, Grant?
I guess on a basic level, I love making things. So I'm obsessed with not just like the finished product, but the process and the technique and all of the sort of technical things. But very weirdly, a good example would be like, I love how complicated what we do is at some point, and don't psychoanalyze this, it says some stuff about me, right? Like, perfect example, like I would not leave yesterday until this like really like Satan's mohair had been tamed. And it was like 3 girls had tried to sew it and were crying, and I'm about to lose my mind and all that stuff too, but like sort of the, again, like the journey and the unpredictability of this fabric or that fabric and the math behind this and all that. Like I love the challenge. So the moments where I think I hate my job and then you finish it and you're like, oh,
that's funny.
I did it. Yeah, that's a little
right
bit
before
like,
you said the challenge, I heard it in my mind. He likes the challenge.
Yeah,
right?
so probably a dopamine thing. Would you say that? Yeah, say that. So.
Very good. Okay, so What I want to do is I want to turn to, let's start with the good. So we have the good, the bad, the lessons and everything. So let's start with the good. If you were to describe for the audience Tracie as a window treatment workroom, right? What's something that you love that designers do? So something that it could be a particular designer that you're imagining, or just something in general that designers bring to you when they work with your workroom that you love, appreciate, value. What is that?
Collaboration, I think, and I can pick on one because she's here, is they bring me the creativity, but they bring me their vision for the whole project. So it's like, let me tell you about the room. Let me tell you how I want it to feel. Let me tell you about the look I'm going for. So and I'm an engineer, and I'm very much about the details. So when they get to describing these very touchy-feely things, it helps me. I don't love that, but it helps me sort of get there. So it's great for me to understand where they're going, what the end vision is for the client and the designer together, so that I can make sure the product we're giving them is gonna fulfill what they need. And so I love that. I love they bring me drawings, and I love that my designers bring me drawings in different ways. Some workrooms have a way they want to receive things. Here's a purchase order. I want you to fill out this order form. And my designers are too creative, but I love that they all bring it to me in a different way, whether it's a SketchUp or a list of product, and I go back with questions. It creates conversations. It creates questions and answers, and I think that's how we get there. I think that's how we find the finished product that the client wants and feels good about. So I love that they bring me their creativity, and that we can collaborate, and they're collaborating. They're asking me, hey, how do you think we can apply this window treatment, or what do you think we can do with this fabric? Can we put this silk with this tapestry or this carpet that Cindy loves to do? And, I'm like, Grant going, oh my God, are you kidding me? And then when you're done, you're like, yes, we did that. So I love that we do that together.
Okay, so I wonder, does anybody find that interesting or surprising? In other words, is anybody surprised that a workroom is interested in an in-depth conversation about where your design vision is going? I have to say, I'm not sure it's happening with every workroom. Is it a surprise for you?
Right.
It is, right? And so it's a good thing to understand, right? And maybe you have to, when you first work with the workroom, you feel it out and say, how do you like to work or whatever. But to find someone that is interested in that conversation, I think is gold.
And
right?
I think you do have to find out how the workroom works, because there are different types of workrooms, just like there are different types of designers. Some workrooms want the designer to get, here's your finished length, here's your return, here's your overlap, and here's the panel and the pleat. Yeah. And they're going to make it. And so they're not so much, they're doing a fantastic job, and the relationship is great, but they're not into the collaboration. So it really depends on, or helps the designer understand, what is this workroom about? We try to be turnkey, we do, for our designers. So we really need to understand the whole game. So it's good to understand how your workroom works, and so the designer workroom
I say it's like, I made this joke earlier, it's like picking your hairdresser or your doctor or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever. It is not, there's something for everybody.
Right.
And every business model is so different. Like you said, Luann, like they're the very collaborative, like ours is involved because we're making these giant complicated things, and there's a mood. And then if you just need a roll arm sofa, there's somebody for that is like, I'm going to make this for you just right. And if you want, the old Anderson Fabrics model or whatever, like here are the dimensions, make it. Or you want this like hand holding thing. It's not just picking a fabricator. It's like you got to find your fit, and then to me that's when all the magic kind of happens, right? You find your person.
Yep.
Is that the thing for you then, Grant, when you think about what is the success in what do you love about the relationships that are good and the vendor and the designers that you work with? Is it the collaboration as well, or is there something else?
Well, we have all levels. We do have people that send us the drawings and they're like, make this thing, and we're like, all right, we can make that thing. And then we have people that will send us, here's the tile, here's the wood, here's all this stuff. This is the mood, and we work from that too. I think our best. We do have good, like I say, like the product is just part of it, right? So if it's furniture or drapery or whatever, the relationship is another big part of it. And I always tell the people that work in my office too, is like, we are selling an experience. And the experience is the product and everything it takes, from the receipt of money to the delivery of goods is an experience. And so it's a relationship, it's all that stuff. This is not a sales pitch, by the way, but it is,
It's a
because
good
it's
one,
for
though.
me too, but it is so like our most successful client relationships, of course, are the ones who don't mind hopping on FaceTime to decide if you want this top stitch or you don't want a top stitch, or if this feels right, or does the scale of this feel perfect? Because like sometimes I'm like having a moment and I'm looking at their drawing and I'm really feeling this other thing, and then like we put our heads together and it's good. So that's good. Not that it has to be that way.
Okay, but you like that
I
process
love
as
that,
well.
yeah.
Okay, Christy, how about you? When you think about the vendors that are some of your favorites, what are some of the characteristics of the collaboration that you like and you value about them?
Well, I'm a firm believer in HIY, so you hire it yourself. I design it and I hire it out. I'm not doing this for you. I'm not building it. I don't know how to do it. I understand how it's built and how it's done. I think that's key, is knowing how things are put together, but I do not make the thing. So I like to source it out. Y'all are very important in my life.
Right.
As are you.
So it's that relationship and having a great relation. I think all of it is about communication and relationship on the client side and on the vendor side. And so there are some vendors that I have that are just like, tell me what, this, you have at it, great, got it. Then I have some that are like, no, like you said, let me see the tile, let me show you the whole room. And I love doing that too because it makes it more fun. And I don't know why that makes it more fun, because I like the technical side of things, but I like being able to share the vision, because I think then they also can take pride as well, because they feel like they're even more a part of the space that I've designed with the client. Like we all get to take pride in this one big space together instead of just like, oh, we did that pretty window, great, it's great seeing it, because y'all don't get to see it a lot of times.
A lot of times not.
And so,
Finished
and I
product.
do have one drapery lady, she's like, send me a picture, I need
Yeah.
to see
Please.
it. Or
Yeah.
it could be a pillow, and she's like, can I see it on the sofa? And you're like, yes, here you go, it looks great.
We're creative to
so
the
it-
core. We can't help ourselves.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I get that, because I get that way when I'm wanting to install stuff and I can't be there. I'm like, send me a picture, I wasn't there. How's the wallpaper look? So it's really about having you guys, trusting y'all to create my vision.
Yep.
And that's what I love. I love that I'm finding those people, whether it's just, here's the panel link, here's the pleat, a soft faux Roman with a couple of pleats here and there, and, I want the edging to be the waterfall edge or whatever. Or let's draw this together, and,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's going to look that great.
And that happens sometimes.
Because it does.
So here's the thing. So how many of you have a drapery and custom furniture upholstery workroom that you're working with, that's your go-to? Everybody have one? Not everybody has one. Oh, so we do have some commercials happening maybe here, okay? The thing is that there are all different levels. You are functioning at the high service, high luxury level, okay? There are, you're alluding to Anderson Fabrics, right? There are workrooms that, for drapery in particular, you have to send it with the final thing. And they really don't care about the tile and the wallpaper, and it's moving on, right? And so as a designer, you could have multiple workrooms. You could have a workroom like Tracy's and a furniture workroom like Grant's for those particular clients that fill that need that. But then you could have other workrooms that you just order it and you get it done. So it depends on your own business model, and it depends on the different clients that you're attracting. So, and the only reason I kind of interjected this in the conversation here is because if your business model isn't necessarily truly 100% at this luxury level, you might be sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know how I could do this. So there's room for everybody and every designer and every consumer out there, okay? And so there are workrooms that will manage that as well, all right? Okay, so they're making it sound so fun, aren't they? It's so
fun.
easy, and it's so fun, and there's never any problems,
Never.
okay? Now,
I was bragging about you.
I will have to say, Tracy is my worker. And when I met Tracy a long time ago, very long, it was being able to go to my jobs, meeting with my clients and myself, measuring, I would say, okay, how many rings do I need? How many points? You know, that was not my forte,
Right.
but I was doing it.
Right.
So I think that's what it makes it take. And then when you say a luxury client, I gotta say, all of our clients are not all luxury clients. Yes, we do couture and luxury very, very well. But I think there's, for every client, as long as you have somewhat in the investment, that you explain very well window treatments and how important it is for the home, or in this case, upholstery.
Right.
And just like you would describe yourself as a designer versus, you know, just going and letting them pick it themselves and thinking, wow, that's classy.
Right.
But I think what Tracy and someone like Grant take with knowledge, just like you bring to the table for
Right.
your client, and I think that's when you were like, unless you're gonna do ready-made, you need to carve out that niche for every client, because it's gonna be a shock at first, and it may be a shock. Sometimes it's a shock to me, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, walk me through it, and it's hard to shock me, but sometimes I'm like,
It's amazing.
walk me through it,
Yep.
because I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yep.
How am I gonna not only sell it to my client, but get past my shock? So when you start doing this on a regular basis, when you start knowing your hardware costs, your fabrics, how many yards and why, you can't sew perfect silk, which is my favorite. But that's where I think somebody like this
Right. Right.
comes into that.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. The thing about it is that, you know, there's something in there is if you are newer to window treatments, is to develop or to going to custom furniture, right? So you come in and you start as a designer and you're ordering furniture. We won't say the names of the places, right? Then hopefully you graduate and you're ordering for trade through trade resources. And then you might have the opportunity to really design a piece of furniture for somebody. And you'll work with somebody like Grant. And then you'll have your different, what Nancy G calls the ladder of services. You have a ladder of services that you deliver, and you may have a ladder of vendors that you work with. But to get to the heart of the collaboration is really the thing. Okay, so as I was saying before, you know, it's not all sunshines and unicorns thing. Like, I know it. I said in my introduction about myself that I have the podcast, but if you don't know me, I've also owned a window treatment company for 40 years. So I do not produce window treatments. I'm the middleman in between the interior designer and the workroom, okay? And I know it isn't all sunshine and unicorns. I absolutely know it's not. It is every darn day deciding to get up and put on a smiley face and go back at war, okay? So the thing is that I would love for you to think about something that happens in the process for you and Grant, Tracy and Grant, working with a designer that breaks it down. That is like, you know, this is not a good thing. I wish I could tell every brand new designer, please don't do this when you work with me. And then, Christy, you're going to answer it from the other way. What are the things that workrooms do that make your life harder? Okay? So, do you want to start on that, Grant, or?
We actually, you know, the funny thing, Luann, is we just never have any problems. Everything's
Yes,
smooth
everything's sunshine and
sailing. We deliver. We always
I'm
deliver.
sorry, the discussion is over.
I
Goodbye.
know. It's just so funny because, like, we deliver early communications. I read my crystal ball every morning, and it gives me all the answers.
Love it.
So, what are the breakdowns? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, how much time do we have? No, there's the biggest issue is, like, you know, clear communication, and the bigger the firm you're working with, sort of the more hands there are in the pot. So there's a lot of great things that come with that, like the processes and procedures. And then there's a lot of people that, you know, maybe didn't hit reply all. Or
I'm dying because I'm like trying to keep my
and
mouth
didn't
shut.
tell you. So, you know, we do. So we have some larger firms we deal with that are very easy, and then we have some that, you know, we had an issue where someone's assistant said, we are building this sofa from walnut, make some cushions to go on it. And in the designer's mind, she thought they had said, would you design this sofa? But they've sent me technical drawings from a woodworking shop and just said, make these cushions. Okay, cool. you just want cushions for this thing that you said in the email is being built. And so the designer assumed, she said, I told you to design that sofa. I'm like, you sent me shop drawings. And she's like, yeah, but you were supposed to like mark them up. And I was like, okay, so it's that, you know, again, it comes back to communication. So like very clear communication, and also like always understanding that I firmly believe they wanted one thing, they firmly believe they said another. I think that's probably where the biggest issues come through. And there's not a great answer to that thing either, but it is making sure, I guess, you're asking questions and making sure you're like, do we really see eye to eye here? So we had some snafus.
No,
Whatever.
it's tough. It's tough. How about you, Trace?
Probably too little information.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes me come back with 1,000 questions. But too little information is difficult. Hey, I want 4 pillows for a sofa. Okay, where do we start? But
Can I get that quote tomorrow?
yeah,
The
right.
best.
So really, just too little information is difficult.
Yeah.
And also it's important. It's nice when the designer respects the experience in the workroom of the fabrics you've been working with, because they're all over the place. And so if it is a difficult fabric to work with, maybe we need to change something about what we were going to do. Do we need to change the lining or the inner lining? Do we need to change the way we were going to fabricate it or the lead edge we were going to put on it? And a designer being open to that, because sometimes we get it in the workroom. Well, it's not what it looked like on the computer. So we get it in the workroom and think, wow, this is really going to move, or this is going to grow too much. And it's being able to change that and go back to your designer and say, hey, I think this is potentially a problem, but this is how I think we can avoid that problem, or if we do something different. And so just being open to that. I had one recently that was very horizontal, so it made a great Roman shade on one window, but the panels were terrible because they wouldn't press
Flaying
out
out.
the other way. And so it was too late in the game. The client was kind of okay with it in the beginning, but she said, I really don't like them. I said, no, you shouldn't. We don't like them.
Yes.
So let's change them out. So having that back and forth is important.
It's respecting the expertise.
Yeah, respect.
That's what it is. It's
Both directions.
if your workroom is telling you that something isn't going to work, it's not because they don't want to take the check on that job. It's not because they
Right.
don't want to do it. It's because they're trying to save your back.
Yeah,
You know?
that's so true.
Right, Grant? Okay,
Yep.
Christy, how about you? What is something that working with workrooms and for you,
Yeah.
Christy, it could be anybody. It could be a big, lighting company. It could be, anybody. It doesn't have to, we don't have to just pick on the most amazing window treatment and custom furniture workroom on the planet here.
Well, communication obviously is one thing, because I don't understand why you can't read our minds.
Yeah.
Right,
I really
right.
don't get it. I mean,
Told you I do that every morning.
when I say just a little bit of information, I think you would know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I don't know why. Learning how each workroom or each contractor or subcontractor works and communicates back. I have a reupholster. He prefers texting only. And then I have one that they say they like to email, but it takes them they're a little bit older, and it takes them a little bit longer to respond. I'm like, hey, I need an answer. What? And they're like, tomorrow. And you're just like, no, that doesn't work for a client. So I think trying to manage all of the different ways people communicate to you and then relaying that to the client in a timely manner, especially now everybody is so overwhelmed with work, because we are very fortunate that we are so busy. I'm so happy to say that. And we're all managing the best we can with, high work volume, but possibly low labor staffing. So it's just trying to, communicate that as well too. So it's just really kind of I'm not hand holding, but I am hand holding at the same time. I'm hand holding a client saying, give me a few more days. I haven't heard back. I swear I'm contacting them every day. But then you don't also want to sit there and just constantly pet peeve, harp on someone, because that's going to piss them off at you, because you don't want that either, because you're busy too. Like, you understand that they're busy, so it's just trying to find that time management of relaying the communication.
Yeah.
And you have so many people to
it-
pull together.
yeah,
Yes,
so,
as a designer. Yeah.
I mean, even with like regular furniture companies, like sending fabric that you COM from the cuttings and all that, because that can all get askew, and then the shipping, and it's a lot of.
So the thing is, when you're the designer and you're working with any company, that they don't have a finite system and process for status updates.
Right.
That's the thing. And you're every day. And sometimes they give you a quote in a day, and sometimes it takes 2 weeks, and that's difficult.
Yes.
That's difficult because you don't know how to manage that. You don't know, do I have to get it in 2 weeks before my proposal's due, or they turn it around, right? And so from a designer standpoint, that is very hard.
And I try to have a day where I can send all that stuff out to a client, but sometimes you just can't.
Right. And you are, as Grant and Tracy and Christy and I were talking before we started, you're on the front line. So we're on the front line with you, but you're on the front line with that end consumer. And I wanted to pick up on something that Grant said, the bigger firms, right? And it piggybacks to what you said as well, Tracy, is not enough information. It's not a joke. I know that you have gotten, and you've gotten it too. Hi, can I get a quote on 4 pillows? 100%. That happens. And I have to tell you, I'm like, sassy. I want to turn around and go, here's your quote. I want to go, it's $4,898. And then have you say, how is it that much? I'm like, I don't know, because what am I quoting? Is it 4 pillows that are 18 by 12? Is it down? Is it qualifill? Is there trim? Like you, garbage in, garbage out, man. That's where we're at, right? So that's what it takes everything I have not to just give a sassy answer.
Can you start checking my email, man?
Right?
Do you sub that out?
And so I just have to say, success comes in reading what you send out first. Right?
Yeah.
You guys are busy. You're on the front line with your client. You need that information back. So just reread it. I always say to the kids that work for me, they're all kids now. I'm old enough that they're all darn kids. Okay? But I always say to them, I don't know what this means. Oh, well, Luann, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, see, you know that because 50% of it's in your brain. That sentence there doesn't communicate all of that. And I always say to them, if you win the $5 million lottery tonight, I don't know what I'm doing with this. So think about that, right? Like, what are you actually asking for? You'll get better response from your workrooms, okay? And then, to Christy's point, just be true. Hey, Christy, I know you asked me for that quote a week ago. It's not happening, lady. I'm drowning. It's going to be another week. Because now she can say to her client, I know this stinks, but this is it. Instead of like, well, I asked, maybe tomorrow, right? Like just rip the Band-Aid. It's communication. You said it. It's truthful communication, right? Okay. I have to say one other pet peeve, because I'm like part of a panel here because I have the same business. My other pet peeve is when anyone sends an email that is not designed to get a result. So I will literally read them, and thank God I'm not on the email at WindowWorks anymore because we'd probably be closed because I would really lose every designer client we had. But here it comes. Hey, Catherine is our showroom administrator. Hey, Catherine, can I get on Kim's schedule to measure for a new client? Love, Sally Smith. And I'm just like, yes, you can. I want to go, yes, you can. Like when?
When?
How? Like this email is not designed to bring something to a solution. This is designed for the junior to say to her senior, I emailed WindowWorks, they haven't gotten back to me yet. Right? So think about it. Okay, when Fresca asked me to do this, I was like, oh, lady, look out. I mean, this topic makes me crazy. Okay, so can any of you think of a situation where it was a tough call? Like Grant, you mentioned, you think you made it clear to me. You think you said to do this, and I heard you think that, we had a miscommunication. Can any of you think of a situation where you were in a situation that was tough and prickly and a little crazy pants with your counterpart, but it resolved? And so skills and some advice on how to get out of something that probably both parties had a party in creating, but what are some tips on getting through that? Who'd like to take that first?
I will.
Okay.
It always comes back to communication. Communication and options. So part of this situation with a client was multiple rooms, and all the fabrics weren't in, so I didn't know they wanted to split it up. So it kind of got delayed, didn't get it on the schedule because we didn't have all the pieces. So once she understood that and we communicated that, we kind of got it back on the schedule. We made everybody happy. Well, then you play into, you can't get the motorization because the vendor's out 4 weeks or 6 weeks because of back-ordered tracks from Somfy, the same thing in everything we do right now. So now we've got a tentative install date. We have an engagement party at a home, and how do we make this happen? None of us could help the fact that she couldn't get her motorized track. So we start talking it through. How important is this? What rooms need to be done? And, oh, hey, you know what? We've got a manual track. We'll put the manual track up so the panels can be hung up so she can move back in her bedroom. Then when the motorized track comes, we'll go swap them out. So it's problem solving, it's communicating, and we also went back to the client. Here's the deal. Here's what happened. Here's where we are. How can we meet your needs in a way that we can meet your needs? And you come to a resolution. So a lot of resolution and problem solving.
Mm-hmm. It's a desire for the win-win, right?
Yeah, I mean, I want her to get her window treatments. I want her to have what she wants. I can't help that it's not coming. I want a paycheck. She wants her window treatment. She's having an engagement party. So,
and like not trying to prove like that, oh, it's not my fault because X, Y, and Z. Like,
yeah,
it
I could
doesn't
have
even
said
matter
that. Oh, I can't help it. I can't do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's on a container ship, or yeah, it's wherever.
Right.
But like, okay, let's like figure this out.
Yeah, I have 2 tracks in the back that I couldn't use for another project. Let's cut that in half. Let's put them up, and you can have your track when it gets here. So.
Have you had situations, especially with lead times and things, Grant, that's
everything's
driving
perfect.
you nuts?
No, everything's fine, Luann. Stop asking.
It doesn't have any back-ordered products.
Right. Stuff happens all the time, but it's about collaboration. It's not about like, I've had situations that go sideways where a designer calls it angry, and I'm like, okay, don't forget we're on the same team, and like we can work together to resolve this. Ours usually stem around, not usually, but like we've had multiple times where people didn't take into account the size of the piece and it may be fitting down a hallway and turning, and they're like, can you? And I'm like, no, I can't.
Can I cut
Can
that
you cut
thing
the
with a
arm
saw?
off? We've cut some arms off. Don't ever ask me to do it again. We've troubleshot. We have one right now that was actually cool. Like, it was kind of a modular frame sofa, so like it didn't fit into some NBA player's closet or whatever. And the guy's like, I guess we'll just have to use it in another room. And I was like, girl, that frame is in 3 pieces. I was like, I'll send my people. We'll take it apart. Like, no big deal. Like, it'll be a 3-hour thing. We'll get the sofa in your closet. So we tried. Like, those are the success stories. And then there are those stories too where people are like, no, it's your fault. And you're like, no, not really. But I'm not into that. I'll just kind of do anything to bring those situations to an end and then stop working with that person. Because even when it's not my fault, if they say it is, I'm not here to prove it. I'll make it right, even if you're wrong.
Yeah.
And then, we'll just tie it up in a neat bow, and we'll end with at least you having professional respect for me, and me just doing whatever I want to with my feelings about it. But I'm always gonna, you know what I mean? That I'm just not the type. It might sound like it, but I'm not the type that's gonna like prove a point to anybody other than proving that, if I make it right, you were wrong. I got you.
Yeah.
So we'll do
Got
it.
each other's back. I mean,
Yeah, it is, and yeah.
So, Grant, pick that apart a little bit. So, for example,
Uh-huh.
you get an order from a designer
Uh-huh.
for this beautiful piece. It doesn't fit in the elevator. It doesn't fit around the corner. Is this, I don't believe it's your job to say, are you sure this will get into the
Right.
place, right? You don't feel it's your job also
honey,
to say
I
that?
ask for AutoCAD of the freight elevator now.
Yeah, no, once you have it happen once, you'll
I
ask
want
him.
to see the hallway. I
Believe
want
me.
to see. We
No,
do enough in New York
I'm the same
that-
way. Once we can't get something up, we're like, oh, and how big is that freight? I get it, okay?
Yeah.
But it really isn't on you to say, hey, do you know if this will fit anywhere? Does any designer here think it's on the workroom to ask if the sofa will fit in around the corner or in a hallway or up a freight elevator?
If your workroom
They
loves
are
you,
the
they'll
best
ask.
designers. Sign
Right.
them all up because all of them are rational.
right.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
That's the partnership, though, and that's why, like,
It is.
let me. And you know what? Because it happened to somebody else who didn't. For whatever reason, it happened to somebody else. And like, maybe this is your first time doing something in a Tribeca high-rise with a freight elevator, and it just slipped your mind. Then
It
that's
does,
where like
and
It
we-
happens.
we're like,
this is how come we all know it's a big thing, because it's
we
happened
got
to every
your
one of us.
back
And I do
because
feel like it's my responsibility to ask whether it is or isn't. I'm making the product. I mean, I didn't ask one time and had a 20-foot track, and there wasn't a freight elevator. So we walked, my installer and I took turns, and we walked it up the steps. Here, hand it to me, I'll hand it to you, to get it up to the, you know, so.
So
Everybody's
that's a good
comfortable.
point. So here's the thing. It's one thing if, as the workroom, we ask, but it doesn't, Christy, do you think it lies with the workrooms to ask, or do you think it lies with you?
It's fully my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm the designer. I know the space. Y'all don't know what the space looks like.
Right.
You don't know the size, width of a door. I mean, I've had it happen to me, and I ordered it from a piece of furniture from Highland House, and I had to get a contractor to come and take the door trim off, so that and it was literally half an inch. I mean, like,
I gotta say
so
something.
should-
We're acting.
Highland House doesn't get to, you know what's about it, if it fits in or not. So the fact that y'all care.
Well, hang on. Let me
Great.
just jump in.
Even-
We're acting like good Samaritans. Like,
We
let me
are.
take my halo off for a minute. I don't want to remake it. I'm gonna be honest with
No.
you. It's really not. I mean, yes, I have a big heart, but like, I honestly,
We
if
don't
doesn't-
want it to come
If
back.
it doesn't fit, I have to remake it, regardless
Exactly.
of whose fault
Yeah.
it was. So
That's right.
I'm saying I got your back, but also like,
Right.
even if I get paid to remake it, I don't want to remake it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I shouldn't act like such a saint.
Well, but I think, though, you said the magic words,
Oh.
is that you will do what it takes. And
Yeah.
a good workroom, in my 40 years experience, will do what it takes, whether you're wrong or right. But the second time, it's like, sweetie, this
Yeah.
one's on you. Get your
And
pocketbook out.
ownership. I'm down to ownership. Like, if everybody's owning it and you're finding a resolution, that's what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the end of the day, you want the client
That's right.
to be happy. And
Yeah.
Gotta
we
get
are a customer service industry
Yes,
at
we
the
are.
end of the day. And it's our names that are out there.
That's right.
Whether it ends on good terms or not, as we try to make it end on good terms, obviously. Whether you still have the relationship or not later,
Right.
as long as you hopefully leave it in a good, positive light, that's all you can do.
That's right.
And do your best. And, you know, sometimes you have to just take a hit.
Yep.
And
You do.
And
that's
talk
okay.
to
That's
me-
just part of life.
Yep, and talk to me a little bit, each of you, about when you're in that moment of truth and there is a big problem. Sugar, you know, a little bit of sugar gets a thing, like, you know what I mean? It's like, what is that saying? Sugar in something, like, you know, sugar makes the medicine go down. Like, in other words, from both the designer standpoint and the workroom standpoint, don't you feel that, or how, when somebody comes at you with a problem, does it matter to you how they come at you with the problem? Does that affect, look at Grant. Go ahead, Grant.
I mean, it's nice. I'm always going to be the calm one in the situation, but yeah.
I mean, it
But
matters.
it matters, right? It does
does.
matter.
It does
We're all
matter,
human
but,
beings,
yeah,
right?
I mean, the best thing is, I would love to say we're mistake-free, but we're not.
No one
But
is.
I would say all the designers I work with would say it's a matter of what you do with the mistake.
It is, and
Just a
this
matter
is
of
what I
what you do with the mistake.
tell my project managers and stuff too. Like, okay, whoever screwed up, whatever went wrong, like, don't just go in with the statement that X went wrong. We're gonna go in the statement with X went wrong, and the solution is this, and this. Like, don't to me, it's like, let's acknowledge the problem and let's speak about it when there's a solution. And because like we've made mistakes, or vendors have made mistakes, or whatever it is, and she's gonna say, here's what's happened, and I hate this, but these are the facts, and here's our plan of attack, and I think that gets problem solved better.
That's a critical point,
Yeah.
is to acknowledge the mistake, own it, but then present options for the solution.
Yep.
So this is between designer and vendor, this is between designer and
Yeah.
homeowner, like, that is a critical thing, right?
Right.
Absolutely. And coming to the table in that whole collaborative way. Because here's the thing, it's easy to communicate and collaborate when everything is fine. I mean, it just is. But it's in the hard moments that you have to be with your head on straight.
Right.
And, you know, you said it, Grant, we're on the same team, right? We're on the same team. And those are the successful teams that are working together and understand. Because, again, I've had situations with designers where, you know, we come in and there's something that's not right. And this one case in New York City years ago, and literally like 25-minute tirade with the client and my partner there, going on and on and on and on, and just, this is horrible, and how could this be? And he's sitting there going, this is exactly what you ordered. He's thinking to himself, and he's not saying anything. He's like, I've got it here in writing. You are digging a hole so bad right now, you have no idea. And just couldn't come to a place of, let's figure this out and let's how we get to solution. And ultimately, he just packed up his toolbox and he said, nobody here is interested in coming to a solution, so I'm going to leave, you know? And he walked out. And he just, and that was before cell phones. So he left and he was gone. You know, and I'm at the office and the phone's ringing, the designer, he just walked out and I can't reach him for another hour until he gets back, you know? But it's tough, right? It's when it's hard, it's hard.
Yep.
Right. So, all right. So the best situation is when we come to it open-minded, both sides, willing to say the hard truths, willing to own our parts in the hard truths. And sometimes it will be that we've made a mistake as the vendor. You know, we will. You know, I say it on the show all the time. If you're not okay with making a mistake, then stay in bed. Because that's the only place. That's it. That's the only place. The rest of us are out here with everything on the line, making mistakes and showing up and doing our stuff, right? All right, so I'm curious if anybody in the audience has any questions for these three amazing individuals. We're not done, but I just want to give you a moment if you have questions for tips on working with the other half or go ahead. Oh, thank you.
She's loud.
Vanna,
now.
what?
Tracy knows.
She's loud.
I'm a workroom, and I just wanted to add to the communication, and that when I get information from a designer, like this morning when my feet hit the floor and I looked at my email as I was brushing my teeth, there's a whole house to quote. And I'm like, okay, I'm already quoting one of those this week, so when am I going to get that one done? When does she need it? So I email her back. Hi, Meredith. Happy to do this quote for you. Can you please tell me when you need this? And
That's a
she would-
phenomenal question.
Yes.
Because most of the times, I keep touching this, you feel like you want to get to I want to get to my designers quickly. Like,
Right.
I need to get to them tomorrow. I need to
Right.
get to them Friday, and you can't. So it's a critical question. When do you need this?
And she said, I'm presenting on Wednesday, but I would like to have it on Monday. And I said, okay, I can work with that.
That's right.
Yes.
Critical
And-
question.
It's important to know the deadlines.
And
I guess
also
is my-
to be real about the deadlines.
Yeah.
You know, my next column that's coming out in AD Pro, next issue, is about the fake deadlines. Love the fake. Do you love the fake deadlines?
I love a
Grant?
fake deadline.
Love the
Heck
fake
yeah,
deadlines.
give me all the fake
right?
deadlines.
Love the
Yeah.
fake deadlines because
Tomorrow.
we're not adults. We would never do it on the real deadline. We don't care about a relationship with you. We don't care. We'll just show up late, right?
Right.
All
Yeah.
for a fake
So,
deadline. I am. It helps. And on a big project too, if I were a designer, I would be like, yes, Grant, we are absolutely installing in October, knowing that stuff was going in November or December or whatever, because you've got to inventory, you've got to inspect. You've got a whole lot to do after my sofa's done. It shouldn't be finished the day you're installing in the house. So I support a fake deadline. I give them to my employees all the time. Every time we write, one of the question tickets or whatever, it's like, date written, date due. I always write one day later, sofa's leaving in 3 weeks, but I want it done efficiently. And you learn, not all of my employees, but I do have one that is can't actually meet a deadline. So I do soft deadlines and stuff. But yeah, oh please. I mean, as long as you're calling 7 months before you need a sofa and you tell me 6, yes, please.
right. So, but there's something in there though, right? I mean, I understand, to your point, designers have a lot. There's not a chance that I would want all the details that you bring to the table. But I feel like that when you are not the boy that cries wolf and you engage in a level, and I know with me, with the workrooms that I work with, if I give them a deadline and then the deadline changes, I'll say, hey, that deadline for, a week or 4 weeks from now or whatever, it just got pushed back. You can still deliver to me. I'll take it. I'll pay you. But if you
That's
need some
kind.
breathing room, whatever, right?
Our clients
That
do
is nice, because sometimes we don't get that.
Right.
And I expect it stinks because I feel like as a designer, we're constantly, especially right now, because everybody's so overwhelmed with a lot of work. Every week I'm having to check up, which is normal anyway, but it's taking, instead of 30 minutes, it's taking 3 to 4 hours because no one calls back or they don't have an answer. And then, but sometimes when it comes to my workrooms, I'm like, you have somewhat of an answer. Could you just tell me this
Yes.
time?
Just the
So-
honest.
Just
Yes.
tell me something so I don't have to call you and like bug you again. Because I'm already calling like furniture manufacturers, lighting companies, and it's like one more person
That's
to
so
add to
hard
that
for you,
list.
right?
And you're just
Yeah.
like, oh my God. You just sit there and want to curse.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I do that every day. I'm like yelling at the computer or the phone.
Yeah.
But it would be so helpful, I think, if workrooms would make, and I know they're busy and they're short staffed, but it would be so nice if they could tell us sometimes, hey, the lead time got pushed back to 3 weeks because shipping is taking a little bit longer. I
It's
mean,
the bad news you have to deliver, but I feel like the honest news is better than good or
it
bad.
would just be so nice.
It just,
But it's hard for
you.
you,
just need to
Christy,
tell them,
right?
what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Tell people
I mean,
what it is.
I mean, it's hard. I live in South Carolina. Y'all live in Atlanta. I think most of y'all do. Well, most of our furniture manufacturers ship out of North Carolina. It is unfathomable to my clients that live in South Carolina when they know it's a 2.5-hour drive to High Point or Taylorsville or Hickory, North Carolina, that it will take them a month and a half to get a piece of furniture once they get notified that it has shipped. They can't figure it out. They're like, I'll go pick it up. Well, they're not allowed to pick it up. I'm only allowed to pick it up, or a freight carrier. Well, I don't have time to go pick it up,
Nor do you have a truck to go.
and nor do I have a truck. I'm gonna have to run a U-Haul and hire people. But it's insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's frustrating.
it's frustrating.
It's frustrating.
And
it's
I
hard.
explain that
There's
to them,
not a
but
good explanation for
there's
it.
no good
There's, like,
explanation. But I
it's
try.
a
But
broken
it's
system.
Yeah.
it is what it. I mean, and most people are understanding. But a 2.5-hour drive, it is. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about that. California, sure, but
Yes, yes. I mean, you guys all know Leslie Carruthers, Sabre
Yes.
Partnership, right? So she put a post in her Facebook group a week or two ago, and it was a map of the U.S., and it had red dots all over it. And she said, every one of these dots represents a container filled with furniture or products for the design industry that cannot be delivered because there isn't the workforce to deliver it.
Right.
Like just sitting there ready. I mean, and so for, us, we have to make the conversation to the designer, but the designer, you guys have to navigate that conversation with the consumer, and that's really hard. It is really hard, and that's where, well, and at WindowWorks, I have both consumer and designer. So, the last year, 18 months since COVID, I've been promoted to the CCO. I'm the Chief Complaint Officer at WindowWorks.
Somebody's got to be that.
Yeah, because, every day there's somebody complaining. And, I have been elected to have the hard conversation every day for 18 months. I love it. It's so much fun, right? But we're all doing it.
Yeah,
we're all
we all
in
are
that,
doing it,
right?
yep.
We're all in it together, right? Anybody else have any other questions, Renee?
Tracy, speak to them about what you were talking to me about lead times this morning. And understanding. I think that's a
we had
really good
yeah,
communication.
the three of us were talking about that before Luann walked up, and we're like, we talked about that all day. But is
Y'all
I
ready
mean-
for the TED Talk?
yeah. I mean, everybody knows what's going on. It's happening all over the whole world. Like no one, if you don't know what's going on, you're definitely in a bubble. So, but it's about communicating it to the designer communicating it to the client, and understanding, just like with my situation I just explained about the track. I didn't know they were back ordered until the third time I called to check on them, and they had just found out they were back ordered. So the vendor can't help it, and they were literally scrounging around the distribution center trying to find every piece that they could possibly fill any order. So, but communicating that to the client helped her understand the lead times and what we were going to do about her project. And that's about all you can do right now. And then, there's different vendors have different lead times. There's options. I mean, we were talking about that with
Something
Roman
goes
Shades.
away every week, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can't, if it can't be a spring roll system, then maybe you switch to a bead chain because you can get it over here.
Yeah.
So if you educate people and they are a little more open-minded about their options.
I want to do like a recording of the talk about it because I'm so tired of saying it and just saying it a little differently each time someone calls like, well, here's what's going on in the industry, but we realize the designers are on the front lines. Your clients have way less knowledge about what's happening in the industry than you, and I have way more knowledge than, because we're on the back end of it. And so, and it's tough. So we try to say, like, I joke, like, what is the shortage of the week? And because there's going to be a shortage next week, it's been freight the past few weeks, everybody. It's about to be feathers, and it was foam, and it's lumber, and it's this and it's that. So whatever. So just like, You know, and then I say it, but like also now I just say it with like so little emotion. I'm like, can't get your frames this week. It used to be like, I'm so sorry that this is frustrating, and now I'm just like, no, here's the deal. Tell your client we can't get the wood.
But you're the ones the clients get mad at. Like they're going to either get mad or emotional, and you have to take the brunt.
And there's an
So we try to arm myself with options, or we can do this if that, or we're doing our best to.
Yeah.
There's it's like sorry, I just cut you off.
Oh, no, you can keep going.
There's a way, like on the front end, like the designer is selling their client a handmade product made by humans, right? So like there's take the past 2 years out of it, right? So we're gonna go get a custom whatever, or we're not gonna buy ready-made panels because Tracy whatever. And here's what's cool about it. They're gonna give us shop drawings, and we're gonna revise those, and we're gonna talk about it, and they're gonna build this custom frame from hardwood in one of their facilities, and then it's gonna come here, and it's 8-way hand tie, and it's, they're making a cushion insert for you, and it's all these things. So you've got to like sell that into your product, maybe. I mean, bossy, whatever. You might want to. So that's important. So I think when those things are like, all of a sudden you get the client really emotionally and mentally invested in this product that isn't something that's sitting in a warehouse or a factory that's been done for nobody but everybody, right? So that's the difference. And so once they're invested in that, you can be like, well, then you can kind of explain away what's going on now.
I love that.
Designers and workrooms, and that's the example I was giving Renee earlier, is understanding your workroom's lead times or your designer's expectations and lead times. Because for us, like a client she pays her deposit, she may think the clock starts running. That's what I think for my new cabinets I'm about to get.
Yeah, well.
So am I right? No, the clock doesn't start ticking until
Well, it's taking so long with these cabinets.
Yeah, because you got to talk about it for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but for me, the lead time doesn't start until I have all your fabrics. So if you have 6 fabrics in your project,
And the
I can't
measurements.
start on the lead
fabrics
time
right
when
now,
one
I
gets
can't.
there.
Right.
They have to all be there. So if the lead time is 6 to 8 weeks, the clock doesn't start ticking until everything's there. Okay, now I can take Jane Smith, put her on the calendar. Here she is. Here,
You didn't save
So
her
you got
some
to
room?
back in. I know,
Save
right?
some room on the
You got to
calendar?
back into that. You got to get. I don't know how long it takes fabric to get here. Shockingly.
Yep.
So there's a lot for a designer to
it's
back
so true.
into and add to give the workroom lead time or the upholstery workroom lead time, because there's all the front end work.
Yep.
So
And, to Grant's point, Christy mentioned it way back in the beginning of the conversation. She said it's important as a designer to understand what goes into the products that you're selling. When you go, the depth of what goes into creating a custom piece yourself, just the working knowledge enough to describe it to your client. When the things get tough, you can remind them, remember I told you this is a handmade thing, and that goes to your point. You said you want to hire the professionals to do it, but you want to have a good working knowledge of what you're doing. So I love that you're both saying the same thing. We had a question over here. Yeah.
I think my firm is relatively new. I do have a partner, and I'm probably what Luann, I think you term a baby designer, even though I'm an old person. But I think, like, one thing I did in the beginning when I was looking for workrooms, because I didn't start out with clients that were luxury clients, and I'm still working really to get to luxury level clients. But when I called workrooms, I would ask them if they were new designer friendly. Because quite frankly, we all learn from an academic standpoint, either through working with another designer or through school. There's nothing like going to a workroom with someone who's been doing this business for a long time. And all these questions, you say, well, you got to tell me this, and you got to tell me that. We don't know what we got to tell you.
Yeah.
Just
I love
honestly.
everything
too.
about that.
I mean, I was that.
I would be
I
like,
was
I
that
got you.
workroom.
Come get under my wing.
But
Yeah.
not everyone is like that. So I don't want you to say, sure, and hang up the phone, and you're like, I cannot believe she did not say all those things. So I would say, just be honest. If you are not at a point in your business, you're at a point that you really prefer to work with experienced designers that don't have all these questions and issues that we will probably have. Yeah. I would rather you just tell me. The one workroom that I did encounter, she actually invited me to her studio. We walked through everything.
Good.
She showed me everything from the seam iron to the thread.
That's awesome.
Should be.
And I appreciated that so much as a new person. So I would just say, for the people that are baby designers like me, ask that question, and if they say no, walk away.
Right.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because earlier I started to say I was that workroom. I haven't always been in the luxury market, and it still varies widely, but I was at workroom making very small jobs, one of my designers always said the pillow leads to the kitchen.
Right.
And is
Yeah.
making those small jobs. And I was there, I was that person, and I still do those jobs. You know, we do a variety of jobs, but what's great about working with a new designer or a baby designer is you're growing together. So
Yeah.
that's awesome for a workroom, because then you're training each other and you're evolving together. So you're the value and success, the chances of success
Yeah.
of that is going to be really good.
Your
So
honesty.
I would love it.
Yeah, I would say yes to you because, like, first of
Absolutely.
all, you've called and you've laid it all out there.
Yeah.
And I got my biggest furniture client this year was somebody who called and said, I worked in the fashion industry. I'm doing this project. Now I kind of vetted the project. It was a good project. But he's like, I have not done this before. And I was like, come in here. We got you. And it's been like my favorite client, my best collaboration, because he came in. You know, you can look somebody up and see they have talent, but do they? Whatever. He came in, he was humble and he was honest. Like, you're everybody's dream client.
Yes.
And people that wouldn't
You
do
grow
it.
together.
Yeah, and you're gonna become somebody's best client too. But that's such a good sign